take this opportunity to thank you for the support over the years, because as a sponsors, you are vitally important to achieve those little targets that we're going to achieve. So thank you for that. And in terms of the feeling, you can imagine, really excited. It's been 6 weeks of incredible experiences, trying to get as much information as you can in terms of the players, in terms of how they feel, in terms of how they are as footballers, finding out I've got different DVDs about the history of our football club. I've been falling in love with the Dixie Deans and all the different chapters in our history. And we were privileged or happy of working in Austria, 3 different environments: Austria, Finch Farm, which we got great facilities, and then the USA tour. And Austria was perfect in terms of working from a physical point of view, and USA is as good as a games program as you're going to get. We played against Juventus, that for me is the best back 3 system in world football. We played against Real Madrid, which is the best counter-attacking team in the world, and then 2 very good sides, in Valencia and Real Betis. So the preparation has been perfect. Just a little shame that now we lost 13 players and we don't know how they're going to get on over the next 2 or 3 days, but that's a bit unfortunate where we are.
With all the things you mentioned there, so much has been on your plate in the last 2 or 3 months, getting to understand the football club, getting to understand the culture here. From the time you won the FA Cup with Wigan to where we are today, what have these last 2 or 3 months been like for you, Roberto Martinez?
Well, it would be impossible to describe with so much little time. All I would say is that you look back, and I mean, football you miss a lot. All I've been doing is looking forward. As I said, I've been surprised, I would say. When you follow Everton from the outside, you know that we are a big club. But when you get inside, you realise that being a big club is more than that. It's the meaning, the amount of fans that we got, the history that we have, the expectations that we have. And that really excites me for the future. I always said that it would be very easy for me to say, well, we can compete with other clubs that they're spending more money. We need to find a way to compete, and it's going to take time, it's going to take your patience, it's going to take your understanding, but I do think that if you are flexible enough, if you're creative enough on the pitch, you can compete against the top sides, and we need to get back to winning titles, and we need to get back to being a club that we can compete in any competition that we are in.
The squad you've now assembled, many players that were here last season, plus the new faces you've brought in, how happy are you with the squad you have now? 4 days to go before the season starts, but with 3 weeks of the window still left.
Well, really happy, but obviously really concerned as well, because I'm not going to hide the real worry that there is around. I think the modern game has changed massively. I've been really disappointed in the last 2 or 3 years how the players, they don't want to be loyal anymore in the game, not just in our football club, in general. I think they just tend to be wanting to change constantly. When you see players that they're not happy at Real Madrid and they want to move, or Man United, or Arsenal, or Barcelona, you see that it's nothing to do with the clubs, it's just a mentality. So for me, it's very wrong to have the window, the transfer window open while you're playing official games. And that's something that is all too good to say, well, if the player wants to go, sell him and let him go. It's more than that. I think it kills the values of the game, it kills the reason why we're involved in football, why we represent a football club, and something has to be done. Yesterday we had the Premier League meeting, we raised the issue, and they don't seem to be brave enough to change it. They want to wait until another league around Europe make the move. And I think for all of us it's a worrying time, because you can lose a player tomorrow with no time to replace him, and that could really affect the start of the season. But saying that, I go back to what Stuart was saying. I don't want you to take for granted what we got in that dressing room. I've been surprised with how much they care about playing for Everton. They've got an incredible competitive edge, and that's going to give us a great platform for the future. So as long as we don't lose any player that contributes towards that, we're going to be able to cope with anything that is thrown at us.
But for now, you'll be ignoring any phone calls from Dean Moyes in your mobile, yeah?
I will. And the fax machine of the children's egg and the channel, I couldn't get it. But we are prepared for any situation. I know that the fans will be worried. I can guarantee you, if we don't lose any players, that's mission accomplished. If we lose a player, we're ready to finish the window in a stronger position. So don't worry about that.
Let's talk about some of the players you have brought in this summer. Aruna Kone, a player you know well. Everton fans, as we all know, love their number 9s. How confident are you that he will go on to be a big hit with these supporters?
Well, I'm very confident from the football ability that he has. Remember that he's a very experienced footballer. He's played his football in Holland. He was very successful. He had a massive move to Spain. Then he had a very successful season with Levante. Always a goal scorer. He went to Germany. He's been successful in the Premier League already. And the first day that he arrived to Finch Farm, I asked him, as you remember, I've been working with him for 10 months, and I asked him, what number do you want? Knowing, that night I just watched a DVD about Dixie Dean and so on, so I'm thinking, you don't know what you're getting into. I said, and he said, I want number 9. And I knew then that he's going to be a successful player for us. Remember that now it's a bit difficult because he's doing the Ramadan as another impossible subject to go into in pre-season when you need to work so hard physically. You can't really eat when you got the daylight, so you can imagine that it's been difficult for him, but the boys have welcomed him really well. We've got Niki Jelavic now, for me, in the best moment of form that I've seen him since he's come back this season. We got Victor Anichebe and Tolis Velius as a young man. We got 4 outstanding goal scorers and 4 outstanding strikers for that position, so delighted with that.
I don't know how many other people in this room, when we heard about Gerard Deulofeu joining on loan, went on YouTube, had a little look and got very excited by some of the footage you can see on YouTube. He looks a very special player. How is he settling into life? Is he ready for the Premier League?
Well, if you ask him, he'll tell you yes, he wants to start on Saturday. And the reality is that he's a young man, he's an incredible talent. He's the one that you would pay big money just to watch the game and see what he does. Now the other thing is, taking him from Barcelona environment where they got the ball for 90% of the possession and then they don't have to defend. When you get a player back to the Premier League and the British game, it'll take a bit of time, but he's been working really hard physically. He played against Valencia, and when he saw what he had to do off the ball, he nearly collapsed. So he's going to get a little bit of time for him to settle in, but he's a player that is going to win you games. So I'm sure that you'll see the best of Gerard after January, but until then he'll have a big role, and if we can help him and if we can give him that little bit of patience, we're going to enjoy his talent in the squad. Remember that Barcelona, they guard him as one possible, probably the replacement of Lionel Messi in terms of their role. So that's, for me, when they told me that was good enough.
He'd be alright then, wouldn't he? Yeah. You talked a little bit before about your long-term ambitions, where Everton should be in years to come. For this season, in 9 months from now, what would you be happy with?
Well, I will be happy with being a team that we are really competitive in every game that we go into, that we become flexible. I think we are a team that we've always been hard to beat. We got that, and I think that takes you to so far. I think now it's important. I want the team to be able to control the game. It doesn't matter where you play and who you're playing against, to be able to be always the team in possession, high tempo. We need to be fitter than what we've been in the past. It's many little targets that we need to get. It's just finding a way of playing that will allow us to compete with the top teams, and that's going to take a bit of time. But that's my target now. The players, they've been incredibly open-minded in taking things in, which is something that is very important. And just as a note, things that I tried to do in other clubs. When I went to Swansea, it took me around 7 months to get the team playing in a certain way. When I went to Wigan, it took me probably 3 years to play in a certain way. At Everton, it took me 7 sessions to get certain concepts, and I think that tells you a lot about the mentality of the players and the talent of the players.
Great to hear. And got a few little unusual questions for you to finish off with. Just before I get to those, we saw you lift the FA Cup at Wembley, which must have been such a special moment for you. How important in your priority list will the Cups be this season?
Well, every competition is a priority, and I think I'm looking through the squad, and I said it before. I think we are very, very fortunate to have the development or the academy system that we have. And as a football club, we should produce 1 or 2 young players every season. And I do feel that if we want to be successful in the cups, we need to be able to have youngsters that can win football games. I'm looking at the lines of John Stones, Ross Barkley. They're going to be important already this season. But there are other youngsters that they need to have big roles. And for me, if you're successful in the cup competitions, that got a trigger effect to the youngsters, and we need to make sure that we use that in our advantage.
To finish off with some lighter questions on a lighter note, at Sky Sports News, I remember fondly when you first arrived in England, it's one of the 3 amigos as a player. What do you remember about that?
I don't think Sky Sports News was on. We're on.
Yeah, we've got footage. What year was it?
95.
Yeah, no, we were going. We started, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a great picture for the 3 of you. Fantastic.
Now I'm looking back with fond memories. Remember that we come from a completely different culture. Back in 95, you couldn't find a cappuccino anywhere. We got the first day that we trained. We went home. We had a shower. We had nice lunch. We left the players having beans on toast. We've never seen that before. Beans on toast for lunch. So we had our 3-course meal at lunch. Then we went home. We had a little bit of a siesta for an hour. Got up at 4 o'clock, have a shower. 5 o'clock we're ready to walk the streets of Wigan. As you can imagine, we thought that something happened. Everything was closed. There was no life anywhere. So there's been a big change since then. When I see the foreign players arriving now, when they tell me that they find it difficult to settle in, I just laugh at them. You got everything now. It's very, very different. Very different. But we get great memories. You can imagine 3 Spanish boys with a little bit of English. I had a little bit of. I thought I had a bit of notion about English, and then when I heard a Wigan speaking, I knew that they were learning the wrong language. But great experience, and something that is always remembered.
Speaking of language, how's your scouts coming on?
Good. I think I'm doing pretty well.
Do you want to give us an example of that?
Oh, not yet. No. I think I'll keep that for another moment, but I'll keep practicing. Remember, I'm married with a Scottish woman, so you can imagine the combination of us.
Eclectic, certainly. Finally, I know you've got the coaching staff together now. We saw Dennis Lawrence join. 6'8". Did you have a kit for him to wear? Coaching kit for him to wear?
Yeah, well, Dennis is become a very good coach because obviously, I don't know if you remember him as a player. He played for Trinidad and Tobago, and he played in the World Cup 2006. And maybe you remember the game Trinidad and Tobago played against England, and he was marking Peter Crouch. So if you took a snapshot of that partnership, it looked so out of place. It was more a basketball partnership. But he's a footballing centre half, and I think he's got a great way to helping the youngsters how that position should be played. And it's important that we get the first team link up with the development, and he'll do that role really, really well, making sure that the training goes throughout all the age groups, which is important.
Well, it's been really interesting hearing your thoughts, Roberto. Thank you very much for speaking so openly about everything. I'm sure I'd like to show your appreciation for our new manager, Roberto Martinez. It's time to be in York for the Roberto Martinez training stop there, Roberto, so if you would mind picking up all those